Every company in a chapter has, of course, a command section, and part of that command section would be the command squad. Of course, that unit is now known as the company heroes, but it fulfills the exact same role, being the bodyguard and advisors of the captains of each company. Hello everybody, my name is Spoons Rattling, and today we are covering the company heroes for the Space Marines in Warhammer 40,000. So, the company heroes come in at 95 points for 4 models. They move 6 inches, toughness 4 with a 3+ save, 4 wounds, and leadership 6+ and OC 1. So very tanky, thanks to the 4 wounds mainly. In terms of ranged weapons, they all come standard with a bolt pistol. One of the company veterans gets a mastercrafted heavy bolter, which is heavy, and sustained hits 2 at 36-inch range, with ballistic skill 3+, strength 5, AP 1, and damage 3, so very good at killing Marines and similar. The mastercrafted bolt rifle goes on the other company veteran, and has 24-inch range with rapid fire 1 and dev wounds that hits on 2s at strength 4, AP 1, and damage 2. Also very good at dealing with Marine. Moving on, we have the normal bolt rifle, which is on the Ancient. It's 24-inch range that hits on 3s, with 2 attacks at strength 4, AP 1, and damage 1. It's a standard bolt rifle, nothing to write home about. In terms of melee weapons, 3 of them have the close combat weapons, which are 5 attacks that hit on 3s at strength 4, AP 0, and damage 1. Not a crazy profile, but a lot of attacks means it can stack saves on targets. And the champion gets the very solid mastercrafted power weapon, which is precision with 6 attacks that hit on 2s at strength 5, AP 2, and damage 2, so very good for dealing with Marines and Marine characters. In terms of abilities, we have Astartes Banner. While this unit contains an Ancient, add one of the objective control characteristics of models in this unit. And Command Squad. While a character model is leading this unit, each time an attack targets this unit, subtract 1 from the wound roll. And they do have to have a Chapter Master or Captain attached, or the unit is destroyed at the Declare Battle Formation step. In terms of unit composition, there's 1 Ancient, 1 Company Champion, and 2 Company Veterans. The Ancient is equipped with a bolt pistol and bolt rifle and a close combat weapon. The Champion is equipped with the mastercrafted power weapon and bolt pistol. 1 Veteran is equipped with the bolt pistol, close combat weapon, and mastercrafted bolt rifle. And 1 Veteran is equipped with a mastercrafted heavy bolter, bolt pistol, and close combat weapon. For 95 points, you get a very interesting unit that does a little bit of everything, being very tough, being good at shooting Marines, and being pretty good at fighting them as well, alongside all infantry lighter than them. Moving on, we have the buff options. So the Captain is the one that comes in the box, and I think he works fine here. The Champion and the Captain work well together to bring some serious melee threat to this unit, though they're not really a great target for a lot of stratagems, so it's kind of redundant to have free stratagems on them. The Lieutenant, I'd say, is actually arguably better than the Captain, but of course to bring the Lieutenant you need to bring a Captain, though I'd say that if you do, you actually start to get to quite a dangerous unit, just because the Champion, the Captain, and the Lieutenant all have such good melee, and the unit would be very, very tough. In terms of the special characters, Adrax, of course, is a melee monster, and I'd say he generally prefers to be with something that's more threatening in melee. Not that these guys aren't so, but there are units that do it a lot better. Grisaro Khan is pretty solid if you just want a unit to hunt characters, because the Champion and him both have very good precision weapons. Marnius Calgar is such a monster, he really does want to be with dedicated melee units, but if you put him with the company heroes, you would have an insanely tough unit just because of how much defense there is. Vulcan does need a bodyguard, but doesn't buff the unit that he's leading directly, and wants to survive for a long time to keep using his rules, so actually these guys are very good with Vulcan, and the main place I would think about running him. Euroventris is pretty similar to Vulcan in the fact that he wants a bodyguard, but also is buffing a unit outside of his bodyguard. So this is a good place for him. And Pedro Cantor probably wants to be with something more dangerous, either at shooting or in range, just so you can get the most out of his +1 attacks buff, just because overall you're not going to get the most out of that with this unit, because the only real benefit you're getting is some more sort of light infantry attacks and more Marine attacks, which are fine, but just not the best when you could have a unit like Blade Guard, for example, have a whole bunch of extra attacks thanks to Pedro's special rule. Overall, I'd say that Vulcan and Uriel are the best here. In terms of detachments, there's nothing that's really super specific to these guys, unfortunately, just because they're kind of a niche unit. But I thought I would highlight a few and then just kind of give the general consensus on them. First up, we have Gladius, which is just always good. It gives you extra mobility, allowing you to advance and shoot with those weapons that are very solid at killing Marines, and advance and charge to get into combat. In terms of Firestorm, advance and shoot is also handy, but it's also good because Vulcan is good here, and these guys like to be with Vulcan. And Vanguard I wanted to mention, mainly because just doubling down on durability is good on a unit that's already tough. And Uriel loves this detachment, obviously, with his famous disappearing Centurions. So, of course, having a place to keep Uriel safe is very good, so he can provide that and continue on with his business. And then for the rest of them, there's nothing really that specific, but they are just generally a specialist unit. If you have a character that you need to keep safe and alive, these guys do it better than most, but generally if it's a unit that's giving a direct damage buff, they're probably not the best target for them. They're good if you have, say, an enhancement that gives you command points, or gives you some sort of way to mark a unit for death or something like that. You could get a lot of value out of having them with this guy, just because they're pretty much tougher than all of their contemporaries, with the only competition really being the Blade Guard, in my opinion. And speaking of, it's time to move on to the competition section. And this is going to cover mainly just the Blade Guard, which also, I'm lumping the Inner Circle Companions in, but just basically they do more damage but are even less durable. The Blade Guard are very similar to the company heroes. They have far more damage in melee just because they all have the power weapons, which are very good at attacking mainly Marines and equivalents. Though the Blade Guard, of course, have the advantage of invulnerable saves, which is definitely a good one. But the -1 to wound of the company heroes, I think, balances it out. For example, with a plasma gun, you're saving better with the Blade Guard, but you're saving less with the company heroes, so it balances out in my mind, at least. But if you want just a small bodyguard for high damage, it's hard to beat the Blade Guard, or even more so the Inner Circle Companions for the Dark Angels. Moving on, we have to sort of wrap up the video. They're an interestingly simple unit. Their shooting is quite good against all kinds of infantry, but fails against tougher targets. And their melee is pretty much the same. They can fight with most infantry and do pretty well out of it. The champion is carrying most of that weight just because he's got a very good melee weapon. But since you have 15 extra attacks backing that up, they are likely to stack at least a few saves on whatever they're attacking, especially infantries. They are quite tough. The -1 to wound means that things like plasma guns aren't quite as overwhelming against them. Of course, though, high strength and AP could still be a problem, just slightly less so for these guys. The main thing is their 4 wounds, which drastically reduces the effect of things like damage 3 weapons, and small arms will be very inefficient against them because they'll also be -1 to wound, as well as needing to get 4 wounds through to kill each member. They aren't big or threatening enough to use a lot of strats on, which, again, as I mentioned, they're a bit ill-suited for the captain they come packaged with. But they're very good in their small niche of being the best bodyguards around for units that need to be kept safe, but don't necessarily want to be leading a unit that could be using a different unit that could be buffing them more, i.e., say, a lieutenant in a squad, where you also have, I don't know, just Vulcan, just as an example. You could have your lieutenant with the unit and Vulcan in this one to buff them. Whatever, it's not exactly the most rock-solid thing, but you get what I'm saying. Anyways, I've been Spoons Rattling. I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you all next time.